Never start your business by focusing only on the product you are selling. Most people look at McDonald's and they see a burger company, but that is a massive mistake that hides the truth. In reality, they are a giant real estate empire that uses burgers as a clever distraction. They own over $40 billion in land and buildings. If they stopped flipping patties today, they would still be one of the richest property owners on the planet. This secret is how they built a fortune that most businesses can only dream of reaching. Most of us see those yellow arches and think about a quick lunch. We think about the kitchen, the drive-thru, and the menu. But if you are an investor, you should be seeing something totally different. You should be seeing a prime piece of real estate on the busiest corner in your town. McDonald's has spent the last 70 years buying up the most valuable land in the world. They aren't just selling you a meal. They are making sure they own the ground you are standing on while you eat it. Think about the sheer size of their holdings. We are talking about over 40,000 locations in over 100 countries. McDonald's owns the land and the buildings for almost all of those spots. That is a property portfolio that is bigger than most of the world's largest investment firms and hedge funds. They aren't just competing with Burger King or Wendy's for your lunch money. They are competing with the biggest property developers on the planet for control of the most important corners in every major city on Earth. To understand how this happened, we have to look back at Ray Kroc. He wasn't the actual founder of the restaurant, but he was the guy who saw the potential for a global brand. However, early on, he had a massive problem. He was selling a lot of burgers, but he wasn't making any real money. The profit margins on a 15-cent burger were so small that after he paid for the meat, the staff, and the bills, there was nothing left for him at the end of the month. He was building a huge brand, but his bank account was basically empty. He was trapped in a business model that worked well for the franchisees who owned the individual shops, but it didn't work for the guy at the top. He was drowning in debt while trying to expand as fast as possible. He was focusing on the food, trying to find ways to save money on napkins and pickles, but the answer wasn't in the kitchen. He needed a completely new way to generate wealth that didn't rely on pennies. The McDonald brothers, who started the original stand, didn't want to expand and were making things very hard for Kroc. They had strict rules about how the food was made and how the buildings looked. Kroc was getting frustrated because he was doing all the work to grow the business, but he didn't have any real power or money. He was essentially an employee of his own dream. He was looking for a move that would give him total control and the cash flow he needed to take over. That is when he met a man named Harry Sonneborn. Sonneborn was a financial expert who took one look at Kroc's books and saw the truth. He famously told Kroc, "You're not in the burger business. You are in the real estate business." He explained that the real way to get rich was to buy the land where the restaurants were going to be built. Then, instead of just taking a tiny cut of burger sales, Kroc could charge the store owners rent every single month. This one piece of advice changed everything. Kroc set up a new company to buy the land. He would find a perfect corner, buy it, and then lease it back to the person who wanted to run the restaurant. This meant that before the first burger was even cooked in the morning, McDonald's was already making money because the rent was due no matter what. It turned a risky food business into a safe and predictable real estate business that could scale forever across the world. Think about how powerful this model is. In a normal franchise, the owner finds a shop and pays a local landlord. But in this model, McDonald's is the landlord. They take a cut of the sales and a flat rent fee. This gave Kroc the cash flow he needed to buy even more land. It was a self-feeding cycle of growth. The more stores he opened, the more rent he collected, and the more land he could buy. It was a genius move that moved the risk to others. Today, McDonald's owns about 80% of the land their restaurants sit on. They are the landlord for their own franchisees. If the restaurant has a bad month and doesn't sell many burgers, the owner still has to pay rent to the corporation. McDonald's gets paid first, every single time. This is why their stock is so stable. They aren't just betting on people being hungry. They are betting on the value of the dirt staying high, which is a much safer bet in the long run. This model also gives them total control over the brand. When you own the land, you make the rules. If a franchisee isn't keeping their store clean or following the corporate standards, it is much easier to kick them out if you are their landlord. In a traditional franchise, you have to sue them for breaking a contract, which takes years. But if they don't follow the rules, McDonald's can just end the lease. This power is how they keep their quality so consistent across the globe. It also creates a massive tax advantage that most people don't think about. In the world of finance, owning property is one of the best ways to keep your money. They can write off the cost of the buildings and the interest on the loans they used to buy the land. This means they pay much less in taxes than a company that just sells food. It is a sophisticated financial machine that uses the burger business as a front to build a massive pile of tax-sheltered wealth. Compare this to a company like Subway. Subway has more locations than anyone, but they don't own the land. They just rent storefronts in shopping malls or gas stations. This makes them vulnerable. If a landlord decides to raise the rent, the Subway owner is in trouble. But McDonald's never has that problem because they are their own landlord. This stability is why they survived economic crashes that wiped out other chains. They have a foundation made of concrete and dirt, which is much stronger. McDonald's is also a master of using data to pick their spots. They don't just buy any piece of land. They track traffic patterns, population growth, and where people spend their time. They want the main locations, the busiest corners in every city. By owning these spots, they ensure that even if people stop eating burgers, that piece of land will always be incredibly valuable to someone else. They are essentially banking on the growth of cities and the importance of location in retail. This strategy also helps them with inflation. As the cost of food goes up, it gets harder for restaurants to make money. But as inflation happens, the value of the land and the buildings also goes up. While other companies are struggling with the rising price of beef, McDonald's is watching their real estate portfolio grow in value. They have a built-in hedge against the economy. They win when the economy is good. And they win when there is inflation because their assets become more valuable every year. Every time they update a store to look more modern, they aren't just doing it for the customers, they are improving their own property. If you own a house and you put in a new kitchen, the value of the house goes up. It is the same for them. When they add a high-tech drive-through or digital kiosks, they are making their real estate more valuable. The franchisee pays for the upgrades, but the corporation keeps the improved asset. It is a cycle of improvement that pays off forever. If you ever watch the movie The Founder, there's a key moment where Ray Kroc realizes that the brothers are holding him back. He couldn't change the menu without their permission. But once he started buying the land, he realized he didn't need their permission anymore. He could build a new store right next to their original one, and they couldn't stop him because he owned the dirt. This was the move that allowed him to buy out the brothers and take over the entire brand. The scale of their ownership is truly hard to grasp. In many countries, McDonald's is the single largest private property owner in the nation. They own sites in Times Square, on the Champs-Élysées, and in the heart of Tokyo. These are locations that will never lose their value. Even if the fast food industry disappeared tomorrow, McDonald's would still be one of the most powerful entities on Earth because they could turn their buildings into apartments or offices and still be worth billions in the market. Think about the fees they collect. A franchisee doesn't just pay rent. They also pay a massive upfront fee and a percentage of their sales. But the rent is the only part that is fixed and guaranteed. This makes the corporate side of the business incredibly low risk. They don't have to worry about managing thousands of teenagers or dealing with broken machines. They just sit in their offices and collect rent checks from every corner of the globe. They have separated the work from the wealth. This is a lesson for every entrepreneur. You have to look for the hidden asset in your business. Most people are so focused on the product they are selling that they miss the real opportunity. For McDonald's, the product was the burger, but the asset was the land. For a company like Google, the product is search, but the asset is the data. If you want to build a real empire, you need to find the thing that grows in value while you are sleeping at night. It is also about leverage. By owning the land, they can get much better loans from banks. A bank is happy to lend money to someone who owns billions in prime real estate. This allows McDonald's to borrow money at very low interest rates and use that money to buy even more land. It is a self-feeding cycle. The more they own, the easier it is to buy more. This is how they went from a few stores to tens of thousands in just a few decades. Even when you look at their menu changes, it is often driven by real estate. They add breakfast or late-night hours because they want to make sure that the expensive land they own is generating money 24 hours a day. If the building is sitting empty, it is a waste of an asset. They are obsessed with making every square foot of their property profitable at every possible moment. This is why you see them expanding into coffee and snacks. It's all about getting more people in. In many ways, McDonald's is a master of psychology as much as finance. They use the friendly brand to get you in the door, but the business model behind the curtain is as tough as a hedge fund. They have built a brand that feels like a childhood memory, but they run a business that is as cold and efficient as a spreadsheet. This contrast is what makes them so successful. They have the emotional connection with the customer and the hard financial assets of a global titan. So, next time you are sitting in a drive-thru waiting for your fries, take a second to look at the ground. You are standing on one of the most valuable pieces of property in your entire city. The person who owns that spot is making money whether you like the food or not. They stopped playing the food game and started playing the land game. And in the world of finance, the land game is the only one that truly matters in the end for long-term wealth. When people ask me why I study business, this is the story I tell them. It is not about learning how to manage a kitchen. It is about learning how to see the world differently. It is about understanding the invisible forces that move billions of dollars every day. McDonald's isn't just a restaurant. It is a lesson in strategy and leverage. It's a reminder that if you are struggling, the answer might not be to work harder, but to change what business you are in. This model is so successful that other companies are now trying to copy it. You see it in hotels, gas stations, and even some tech companies. They realize that owning the infrastructure of their industry is the key to survival. But McDonald's had a 50-year head start. They already own the best spots. They have built a moat around their business that is made of brick and mortar. It is almost impossible for a new competitor to take their place on the map. It also explains why they are so resistant to change. When you have a $40 billion machine that works perfectly, you don't want to mess with it. They don't need to be the most innovative food company. They just need to keep the doors open so the rent keeps flowing. Their real customers aren't the people buying burgers. They are the franchisees who are paying for the privilege of standing on that land. As long as they are happy, the corporation is safe. McDonald's real estate strategy has shaped how our cities look. Those corners they own become hubs for other businesses. Schools and stores build around them because they know McDonald's has done the research and found the best spot. They are like a magnet for activity. By choosing a location, they are literally choosing the future of that neighborhood. It is a huge amount of power for a company that most people think only sells junk food to kids. The golden arches are a sign of a real estate empire. They solved the problem of low margins by becoming their own landlord. They gained control by owning the ground. They built a tax-efficient wealth machine that survives any economy. It is one of the greatest business stories ever told, and it's a perfect example of why you should never take things at face value. The world of finance is full of secrets, and once you start looking for them, you see them everywhere. Subscribe to the channel right now to learn the hidden business models of the world's biggest brands.